Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
One of the first reactions that the Trump administration should be receiving should be on the ground in meetings with the citizenry, with your constituents, with these legislators that are pushing this agenda, that are pushing it through the Senate, that are confirming Kash Patel, that are confirming Pam Bondi, that are confirming RFK, that are confirming Pete Hegseth, these people that are going out there to have to defend getting rid of birthright citizenship, getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has returned billions stolen from Americans every year, gutting National Wildlife and Forestry staff, gutting hundreds of thousands of federal employees, most of whom don't even live in Washington, D.C., but provide essential services all across the country. And hell, I mean, I don't even want to, I could do this all day. The attacking of the power of the purse that Congress has, the challenging of the judicial control that the three sections of government, the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive have, trying to undermine the judicial control that is stopping the president from doing unconstitutional actions. There is so much that if you're a representative that is allowing the legislature to fall into malaise, that is allowing the three systems of government to break down because the legislature has submitted itself to the executive and the judicial branch is currently under siege by the executive. If you want to break the siege, the quickest way is to break the legislature. And what I mean by that is tell them to do their job. Say that you watch the same Schoolhouse Rock videos the rest of us saw, and you know that it is Congress, because you all have to sit down in those budgetary meetings and negotiate every little detail, do all the pork barrel spending, that you know that it is Congress that retains the power of the purse. It is Congress that writes the budget, and it is Congress that allocates the funding. The executive cannot assert your power, stop him closing down the institutions that you guys allocated the funds for. And if you don't do it for the institution, if you don't care about helping consumers get the money that back to them that was stolen from them, well, maybe you shouldn't be involved in politics, but okay. I guess you don't care. But you need to assert the power that Congress has, because if you don't use a power, you will lose a power. And if the president thinks that they can ignore Congress's power of the purse, then the president could think he could take funding away from literally anything without Congress's say. And that is a scary power to give the president. And that means, instead of having three chapters of government, three sections, checks and balances, we have two. The executive and the legislator, which is acting in tandem with the executive, forgetting its constitutional duties, and the judiciary. The same judiciary that Elon Musk and others are saying that they need to impeach the judges of because it's blocking Trump's totally constitutional action of just declaring birthright citizenship dead, even though it's just clearly in the Constitution. So, if you want to break that siege of the judiciary, if you want to stop them in their tracks, you need to get Congress to do their job. And if you're going to get Congress to do their job, when you're talking about a bunch of whipped congressmen who believe that if Donald Trump says a mean thing about them, that they will burst into flames and melt, then you're going to have to make them more scared of their constituents, removing them from office and voicing their fury towards them and being active in opposition to them than they are with Trump. They need to be more immediately scared of what their residents could do in fundraising and organizing opposition to you and losing their taste of your time representing them than they do Donald Trump. Midterms are right around the corner. I know it doesn't feel like it, but they'll show up much closer than you think. They're in 2026. It's 2025. And when we're talking about U.S. representatives, that is a lot closer than you think. So I wanted to show you guys a few congressmen who have gotten confronted by their representatives on a number of issues from the last 2 months. as Donald Trump tries to push through as much stuff through as possible, his approval ratings continue to go down, and Americans are not satisfied with how he's handled the economy, not satisfied with how he's handled law and order, and so they have complaints. And while not everybody is not satisfied, the majority of Americans are starting to feel like maybe they were sold a false bill of goods. Listen to this woman talk to Congressman Kevin Hern from Oklahoma about Donald Trump's Ukraine policy.
Personally, do you support Ukraine or Russia?
Well, no, it's not easy, ma'am. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Is Zelensky a dictator, yes or no?
That part I have a problem with that statement, yes.
Okay, did Ukraine start the war?
Well,
It's simple.
Do you support
Did Ukraine start the war, yes or
Do you
no?
support Ukraine?
Did Ukraine start the war, yes
Let
or
him
no?
answer.
He
Let
won't
him
answer,
answer.
ma'am.
Well,
He won't answer.
ma'am, I will. Just hang on a
Yes,
second.
he
Yes. Is that your question? Did they start the war?
That's part of it. I want to know where you stand
It's not part of
on
it.
Ukraine or Russia. We have been supporting Zelensky for years now. It's 3 years since Putin started this. Now we're isolating, or he is isolating America. He's calling names and all this. Where do you stand?
Let me just say this. This is not the tactic that I would use to try to solve the problem. And I've said that.
This is not the tactic that I would use. Very diplomatic. But look, this is the type of response they need to get. Because if you were to get the legislator to either act on Trump doing unconstitutional actions or constitutionally backstabbing our allies, you're going to have to build this type of opposition. You have, because they're afraid of Trump and they're afraid of the MAGA base. You need to make them more afraid of losing power due to their constituents than the big man up in the White House. But the thing that is really bothering me, though, is I do want to just throw out there about the Ukraine issue and the Republican Party, is it feels like it's like a sensitive issue, almost something that cannot be discussed that much when it comes to, it almost feels like the issue that they want to work around because they understand how it makes them look. Let me show you an example of them keeping Ukraine out of their mouth when they probably shouldn't. We have a Shahed drone on display here at CPAC. The Shahed drone has been used and killed U.S. troops in the Middle East in addition to countless civilians across the region. The drone serves as a reminder how barbaric the Iranian regime is. It serves as a message to Iran that they will have hell to pay if they continue to attack the United States or our allies. This was fired at Ukraine. There's like no mention. The Ukrainians shot this down and then gave it over to these guys so they could have a representation of the type of thing that they're facing every day. They then take it and then turn it into a message about the Iranians terrorized the Middle East, completely excluding the Ukrainians. It's like it's a sensitive issue. Next, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Representative Rich McCormick, which represents the 6th district in Georgia, he went and he did a town hall with his residents, and that last one was nothing. That last town hall I just showed you, that was nothing. Look at this. He gets a negative response from a crowd when they want answers to all these firings, because many of them, because if you fire 250,000 federal employees across the country, even if you're not talking about the people themselves going to these meetings, do they have family members? Do they have husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, community members, mailmen, hairstylists? Who are they telling them their lives about this? Who are they getting angry about this? Who is angry about this? Probably a lot of people who are getting serviced by those people and the services they provide across the country, or it could be any number of things that Trump has done. And they're coming here, one after the other, to give their peace of mind to Representative Rich McCormick. Now, Rich McCormick just got elected. This is his first term in office. So this is his first time really interacting with constituents in a manner like this. One of his first times, if not his first time. And he decides, after they give him some backlash, to describe the people asking him mean questions and heckling him to the people who stormed the Capitol. Listen to this.
Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Look at that crowd, okay? Those are not a bunch of liberal college kids, okay? Half that crowd is collecting Social Security checks. Another 30% is close to collecting Social Security checks. Okay, what do you have to say, Rich? The whole crowd just clapped that woman yelling at you.
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response to that. But what I was, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you, who are upset just like you.
Okay. I had this similar discussion when Biden went into the White House. Biden didn't go in, I don't like this government department created by Congress. It no longer exists. Biden didn't go in and say, power of the purse doesn't matter. What the courts decide don't matter. The courts literally don't, doesn't matter. I decide what matters. He didn't do that. He didn't violate the power of the purse. He didn't violate Article 1 of the Constitution. He didn't go in there, and if he didn't like a government department or didn't like what the department was doing, just say it doesn't exist anymore. I don't care what Congress said. Because the dude is a creature of DC. And when I say that, I'm not even saying it to be like mean, like, oh, he's a deep state. What I mean is Joe Biden has lived and breathed nothing but DC politics for like the last 60 years. He has lived 3 of my lifetimes doing this. And you're telling me that guy went up there and you had the same discussion? No. The discussion you had was like, oh my God, if he passes his gun control policy, which he didn't, and when he failed to do so, he then stopped, then maybe that could lead to an AR-15 ban down the line. It wasn't, oh, he went in there, said, screw Article 1. These are not comparable things. There are things that Joe Biden agrees with that I don't agree with, that I even should say it's anti-freedom. But none of these things are comparable to taking the basic checks and balances system that we have here, that was created by the founders for this purpose, and decrying it as anti-democratic and saying that it needs to be smashed up. That's not comparable. You cannot say it's comparable. And that's why the room reacted the way they did. And comparing them to the people who stormed the Capitol. The J6 people stormed the Capitol, beat up cops, delayed the transfer of power. First time ever it happened. And then after that happens, they get pardoned and they get off the hook of it scot-free. And you think that this is the moment to compare everybody in that room to that? What reaction did you think you were going to get? You're just like the people who stormed the Capitol, being angry at me in a public setting, in a meeting place where I wanted residents to come and voice their concerns. You know, you coming to this meeting, this town hall, to voice your concerns at a town hall, which are so people can go and voice their concerns. That's just like when people tried to overthrow the government. This is somebody who's perfect for MAGA world. Congratulations on getting elected. Listen, there's more of this though.
And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
litigated in court. You don't think I'm going to stand up for you? Stand up. So we're going to have a town hall. And I'm going to come and stand in front of you and take your questions and try to answer them as honestly.
You need to stand up, don't bend over, if you didn't hear what that one woman said in the crowd. But don't worry, he's going to just keep on riding. Oh, look how cool and youthful he is. He's on the skateboard. He's on the skateboard. Oh, look how cool he is. Isn't that cool? Isn't he cool, guys? Isn't that neat? Isn't that cool? Anyway, let me show you guys some real continuation in this, because I want to show you a representative.
This was a telephone town hall. Also last night, this was Republican Congresswoman Stephanie Bice.
Stephanie Bice. Now, Stephanie Bice did this telephone town hall where she was answering questions from constituents. And, you know, right after the election, just like I said for the other guy, it's the first time you're taking questions from the constituents for the year. And the way that this goes, and I'm just going to be blunt with you guys, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit. And if the next two people that I show you, it confuses you, their response considering the circumstances, let me just throw this out there. You don't go out to these town halls and just give you what you believe and just say what you believe as an elected official. That's not how these work. For some people, that's how it works. But for a lot of them, the way it works is Trump does something, or Obama does something, or whoever does something, and then they give you like a list of things that these are the points we want to hit on. Try to drive these points home. Like, these are the messages that our party's trying to push right now. Try to push this message. Try to push X, Y, and Z, right? And so sometimes I'll notice when people are falling on those bullet points, because if they get in a really bad situation and don't know what to do, they just grab onto something and they remember, this was my job, so I'm just going to do my job, and they'll hit on the bullet point. And Stephanie Bice, I see her use it as a way to try to pivot away from a question, and the next representatives, we see it as a defense mechanism. So let's start with Stephanie Bice. In her telephone town hall, when she starts getting questioned by a Republican veteran asking about the firing of those who deal with veterans' benefits.
Of Oklahoma.
I'm a registered Republican voter and retired active Army officer. How can you tell me that Doge, with some college whiz kids from a computer terminal in Washington, D.C., without even getting out into the field, after about a week or maybe two, has determined that it's okay to cut veterans' benefits?
I think a couple things. Let me give you an example. Did you know that the VA was in charge of payments for illegals for housing? Basically, the VA. No,
I'd like for you to send me. Could you send me that reference so I could research that? Because no, I'm not aware of that. And I would tell you that that's a red herring, a false flag. If you're throwing that kind of political stuff up, trying to cut veterans' benefits, that's very alarming to me.
We talked about this earlier in today's show. I'm getting the inclination that we live in such an era of just disinformation and misinformation. And this administration, our president, takes such a hostile approach to the truth and crafting whatever narrative out of literally thin air that he wants to, that it trickles down and it starts to affect everyone else. And you can see this from the way people have justified these cuts. You talk about like shrimp treadmills and like Venezuelan like finger painting and like a bunch of stuff that's either misnomers and it's misrepresenting something, or something that is just completely manufactured and made up. And there's a lot of this just being pumped out constantly. And it's gotten to the point where I hear something that sounds slightly suspicious and I immediately don't trust it from this administration. I immediately just believe it is a lie. And it's gotten to that point. And my inclination has always been, if I hear something that I don't know if it's true or not, my inclination is, well, it could be true. And so even though it sounds mostly like nonsense, I'll see if I can Google it quick and see if I can find anything. And where now my inclination with this administration doesn't sound slightly fishy, probably a lie, don't believe it, we'll only believe it if it's proven. That's the way we have to approach this administration, because it takes such a hostile approach to the truth. And if you are a veteran whose benefits are getting cut, you cannot play the game of, oh, let me pitter-patter around the issue. No, your brothers, many of whom are blowing their brains out, need benefits so they can live their day-to-day life. And to have it targeted and then to use all this political speak and mumbo-jumbo and like the type of stuff you want on OAN, not in a town hall talking to people. This is a bullet point. That's what I was talking about. You feel how unnatural that was? How he would say, look, I'm a veteran. I don't want veterans benefits canceled. These whiz kids from Doge, these 19 to 24-year-olds, high school, college grads, like, what do they know about any of this? Why should they be making the cuts? And her answer is, did you know illegals are actually like, she fell back on a bullet point. I don't even know if she knows if it's true. But either way, that I can feel the bullet point. It's hit me like a bullet.
That is the kind of reaction these members are facing, even from Republican voters.
The end result.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, watch.
This is Scott Fitzgerald.
When will you stand up to them and say that is enough?
The end result of the fraud and abuse that has been discovered already.
Absolutely no proof. And she's right. She's right. These large-scale fraud, waste, and abuse has not been found. And even if it has been found, for what little stuff I imagine actually has been found in all of this cutting, think about how much damage has been done. All of the institutional knowledge that has been lost from U.S. aid, as many of these people, even if we ask them to come back, even if we got on our hands and knees and begged them to, are going to be too afraid of their life being pulled out from under them and having to start over again. That not only did they get government jobs because they wanted to serve their country, but also because of it's traditionally seen as a pretty safe employment opportunity. And to take away that safe employment away from them and the food off the tables of their families, making promises about buyouts that you don't have the money for, false promises for things you don't know you have, it's gonna cause friction. And this institutional loss of knowledge for U.S. aid, for the CFPB, they were firing people from nuclear safety personnel and then scrambling to rehire them because they did not realize who they had fired. Because Elon Musk, like he said when he was waving around the chainsaw, he's taking a chainsaw to the bureaucracy, just mowing down whatever he can. Let's just hope that a few planes don't come down and we have an atomic incident in the meantime.
About an hour away in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, another Republican Congressman, Glenn Grothman, also getting an earful.
President Trump has issued a lot of executive orders. I think by and large this is moving very quickly compared to other administrations, and I think across the board he's done some very good things. I think.
Now this is representative representing the 6th congressional district of Wisconsin.
He's gotten rid of birthright citizenship.
He said that like it was a positive thing, like he was gonna get like a yay. That's what I'm saying. It's a bullet point.
Illegal as hell.
It's illegal as hell, is what she said. And I have another version of that video actually pulled up. I wanted to show it. 1 second. Here it is. Here is the other version of it, where you can actually see the full crowd, because that was cropped. That version of it was cropped by Rachel Maddow. So this version, you could actually see the crowd. Look at this type of crowd. This ain't, this is not some coastal elite that's flown in. These are members of the community. These are mamas and peepaws that many people know from their families.
This is moving very quickly compared to other administrations, and I think
look at the crowd and look how many of them are upset. Look how many of them raised plates.
I think he's gotten rid of birthright citizenship.
Illegal as hell.
My goodness. Okay. One last thing. I forgot though, because I don't want to. I cannot give Glenn Grothman a shout out because he's been doing this since 2015, right? And you could see on his face that he was not comfortable in that setting. He was surprised by that response. But yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time that he's been kind of like publicly lampooned in front of us all before. Watch this interview that he did with a C-SPAN host earlier last year.
Why did all but 3 Democrats vote?
So this is about a bill that was like meant to like ban illegals from voting, and Democrats voted against it for what they said was it's already illegal, so why would we pass another law? That's the basics of the argument.
Why did all but 3 Democrats vote against a provision yesterday that you have to prove that you're a citizen before you vote? I mean, isn't that a bizarre vote to take? But that is sadly where the Democrat Party is right now. They can't wait a few years until some of these new immigrants become citizens, or until they have children, they become citizens. The Democrat Party is so radical right now that they want these people voting immediately. And if they don't want them to vote, fine. Just have them show they're citizens.
What's the evidence that it's happening? Where have you seen that?
Well, I haven't seen it, but we know it's happening, right?
Thank you, Glenn. Wise as always. Thank God our nation has wise leaders. Glenn. Hey. By the way, if you want to watch the full McCormick Town Hall, it is available fully on YouTube on the City of Roswell's YouTube channel.